What's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we're discussing how the Vikings can create some cap space before NFL free agency, because right now the Vikings are $30 million in the hole, which is actually 31st in the National Football League. And, this number fluctuates from different websites you look at. Like, Over the Cap has the Vikings $55 million in the hole. Spotrac has the Vikings $30 million in the hole. Another website has the Vikings around $36 million in the hole. But I'll just leave it at that, $30 million. Choose the most optimistic one for the Vikes. So how can the Vikes create the most cap space possible before free agency starts and add more talent to this team? We can look at some cut candidates here. And I think the number one most likely cut candidate for the Minnesota Vikings, a guy we've been talking about, even dating back to last offseason, is him getting cut this offseason, TJ Hockenson. So we'll talk about all the contract, breakdowns here, the financial implications of cutting all of these players, but a pre-June 1st release, the Vikings will be taking on $12.5 million of dead cap. It will be saving $8.93 million for 2026. So that really is not too much of a benefit for the Vikings, but the post-June 1st release is this. It will be $5.3 million of dead cap in 26, and 2026 cap savings would be $16 million. I think this is incredibly likely. I think if I had to call my shot right now, the Vikings will most likely designate TJ Hockenson as a post-June 1 release. He has not been the same player over the last couple of seasons, especially after that torn ACL that he suffered at the tail half of the 2023 season. And even in 2024, battling back, wasn't necessarily the same guy. And this year, I just don't really see the pop with TJ Hockenson anymore. He can't really separate in man coverage. Even when he gets the ball in his hands, it's not like he's always been a great yak guy whatsoever. I think the Vikings need to move on, get younger, get more athletic at that tight end position, and him making, $20 million is just way too much in my opinion. So you guys let me know, would you cut TJ Hockenson? Give me a C for cut or give me a K for keep. You guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I am probably, no doubt, saying C for cut here. I think this one just makes too much sense financially for the Vikes. All right, number 2 here. We're going to be talking about Brian O'Neill, right tackle for the Vikings. Now, this is one that we haven't really talked about on the channel, but it does make a lot of financial sense. And this is no slight to Brian O'Neill. He's obviously one of the best right tackles in the National Football League. He has been the definition of consistency at that position. He never, has like a really bad game, and he'll also have some great games in there. But his floor is extremely high. Now, his pre- and post-June 1 release numbers are the exact same. They would only be taking on $3.7 million of dead cap, and you would be saving $19.5 million. So a huge financial benefit for the Minnesota Vikings, but you would also be letting go of one of the better right tackles in the league. His PFF numbers this year, about what it's been throughout his entire NFL career, just really, really, really solid. I mean, 81.6 overall grade. His pass block, 76.4, and his run block, 84.5 as well. And that was also in 734 snaps for TJ Hockenson. But TJ Hawkinson's Brian O'Neill, excuse me. Brian O'Neill is one of those guys where I think the Vikings are going to eventually have to look to replace him in the future. And if they don't, that could be like a glaring hole that can kind of sneak up on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I could see the Vikes eventually extending Brian O'Neill. The only thing is, how long are you going to extend? He is only 30 years old, so we have seen offensive linemen play to their mid-30s, even like a guy like Trent Williams playing until he's about 38 years old. So, I could see the Vikings extending him, and the extension savings, you would free up $14 million this year, which would be absolutely huge. So, that would be big for the Vikes. And, yeah, I just think, Brian O'Neill's got a good chance to get extended this offseason, and, we'll wait and see how that eventually plays out. But watch out for him. And then another guy here, Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave obviously has not lived up to who we thought he was going to be when the Vikings signed him last year. And, giving him that 2-year, $40 million contract, a bit of a doozy for the Vikings. Again, not a whole lot of that was guaranteed. But, again, the same numbers pre- and post-June 1 in terms of cutting Hargrave, $10.5 million of dead cap, $11 million of cap savings. Now, I'm not saying I would 100% do this, but I could see the Vikings doing this, just getting younger at that defensive tackle position because, they spent a lot of, resources on guys like Levi Drake Rodriguez, Tieran Ingram Dawkins, like Jalen Redmond's a stud. And, Javon Hargrave, even though we were getting on him because we haven't, seen, fully what we expected from him this season. He was still solid, especially in the second half of the year. I thought he played a lot better football. Ended up being rated 35th out of 134 defensive tackles, 32nd in pass rush. Obviously, he's not a great run defender whatsoever, but he was still 54th in the league. 31 pressures, 4 sacks. I mean, 2 of those sacks were just quarterbacks running out of bounds right around him. Now, it's funny with Hargrave. Like, he had a great week 1 where I think he had like 9 pressures week 1. Went like 2 months with having less than like 5 pressures in a game. And they really started to get it going at the second half of the year. So I would be down to bring Hargrave back. Gave him that contract. Might as well bank on him, turning into something. But, hey, if the Vikings do end up cutting Hargrave, Brian O'Neill, TJ Hockenson, any of these guys, we will have you guys posted with everything around your Minnesota Vikings. So hit that subscribe button today. Lock us in. And don't miss a thing around your Minnesota Vikings. Now, I do want to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Factor Meals. And if you guys head to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use promo code VikingsChat50 off, we'll hook you guys up with 50% off your first Factor box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. Now, with the new year, it means you guys probably have some big goals. And if you guys don't have any time to cook, Factor makes it easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs so you can eat well without the shopping or cooking. Now, I love Factor because they have no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils. I love the blackened salmon you guys see on screen. Even the Texas cheddar burger is very delicious as well. So you guys can check them out. They have over 100 rotating weekly meals, high protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean diet, and GLP-1 support. So head over to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use promo code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. This offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. Link for that is in the comments section and description of today's show. All right, cut candidate number 4 here for the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to go with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, I think, he was pretty damn good the second half of the year, especially that Lions game when he came back. Thought he showed a lot of good burst in that matchup. But again, the numbers for Aaron Jones aren't crazy. You'd only saving, net of $1.2 million, taking a 6.8 in dead cap, $8 million in cap savings. Now, I think we could see the Vikings get ultra aggressive here with how much they are in the hole. You could see like a guy like Aaron Jones where like if you were financially set up well, you wouldn't even think about cutting Aaron Jones. But with where they are, I could see it happening, but I still doubt it. Like, I think they value him so much in that locker room, just the vibes, the energy he brings. I mean, clearly they're a massive fan of bringing him back with the injury history, with the amount of mileage they had. And I do still think the duo of Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are good enough. We really saw when the Vikings were running the ball well in certain parts this season, those two looked fantastic. And I think the biggest reason why the Vikings weren't able to run the ball as well as we thought is because Kevin O'Connell didn't stay committed to it. Like, if Kevin O'Connell can change his scheme, if he can stay more committed to the run, we can see the more benefit of Aaron Jones' contract, of that trade for Jordan Mason. We're looking at those two moves. We're saying, hey, the Vikings actually got a good deal on both those decisions. So I think they should just ride it out with Jones. I doubt they cut him, but you never know. They might get extra aggressive this offseason. And another guy who the Vikes brought in this past offseason was Jonathan Allen. Gave him a mammoth of a deal, which obviously didn't end up working out. We can call that deal a bust, and there's really no benefit for the Vikings making him a pre-June 1 release. I mean, you would have a dead cap hit of $17.3 million, and the cap savings would only be $4.28. Now, if you do designate him as a post-June 1 release, it gets a little better, $12.6 million in dead cap, and then the cap savings would be $8.95 million. But with Jonathan Allen, it's just unfortunate that he didn't end up working out because, like, on paper, Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Jalen Redmond, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Greenard, Dallas Turner, like, the Vikings should have had a great defensive line, especially with having the breakout season they got from Redmond. So I think you probably just keep him, see if he can get back to maybe a little vintage year for Jonathan Allen, but we'll see what happens. Now, the Vikings could restructure 3 guys. And the first guy we're going to talk about here, obviously, number 18, got the biggest contract on the football team. Again, I doubt this happens for the main reason that Jefferson wants to get that money up front. Now, maybe you restructure him and you give him a massive signing bonus, which would obviously encourage Jefferson to sign that, but the restructure savings are $18 million, so really doubt the Vikings end up going, down that route. But there's also two more here. I mean, you got guys like a Christian Darrisaw who could potentially get restructured, left tackle for the Vikes. He's also on one of the bigger deals here, which, again, with these restructure candidates, most likely this does not happen. But again, with the pinch the Vikings are in right now, you could open up $9.2 million. Now, there also is some reporting out there that the Vikings want to bring in extra tackle competition with the uncertainty around Darisaw's injury, which apparently that really threw a wrench in things in terms of game planning this year, because when you have one of the best left tackles in the league, and it obviously changes the game plan. Like, if you got him there, he's playing good football, it can open up everything offensively, but when you don't, it can, force the offense, overcompensate to that side of the offensive line. But you could free up $9.24 million. But the guy I think is most likely to get restructured and frankly just extended, Jonathan Greenard. Now, there is two sides to this Greenard coin here. Greenard's an absolute stud. If you just look at the raw numbers for Greenard, you see 4 sacks, probably like, all right, he didn't have that good of a season. But if you watch the Vikings, you saw this guy dominate certain games. He was fantastic against the run this season. 12.95 savings in terms of restructure, but I think it's more likely that they end up extending him because he's only got 2 years left for $46 million. Give him a little bit of a pay raise, make him happy. He's, in the prime of his career right now, had a lot of pressures, just didn't have those result in the sacks. Also, he was playing hurt throughout the entire season. 58, still one of the better players in football, so hopefully they end up, keeping him there. And it's also $95 million to save him there. But, hey, appreciate all of you guys for watching today's show. If you guys made it to the end of today's show, just hit me with a skull down below in the comment section. And, tough times being a Vikings fan, especially with the cap situation right now. But, there are ways around it, and we can still have some fun in free agency. So if you guys made it to the end, give me the skull down below. We'll get on out of here. As always, let's go Vikes.